Hello and welcome to the Sideline Live podcast. My name is Orla Keeling and I am the host of the podcast, where every week we bring you a brand new episode with guests ranging from Olympic champions to local heroes, coaches, support staff and anybody involved in the world of sport. Each week we will dive into different topics, including current affairs in sport, identity, skill, mindset, coaching, and also shine a light on those flying under the radar. So tune in every brand new episodes, new stories and new insights you've never heard before. Okay, delighted to be joined by a player, current coach, and most importantly, podcaster, Tim Fudd. Tim, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Give us your elevator pitch, because you've pretty much had every role in the game. Maybe apart from officiating, maybe?
Yeah, well, I do officiate. I officiated basketball before I started coaching, and interesting. I tell a little story about that. I was really into it because it was still, I was still part of the game. And then I found myself in the middle of games, coaches not coaching kids correctly. And I would be on the free throw line standing next to a kid and I'd be like, listen, you should probably, the reason you got that foul was X, Y, and Z. But on offense down there, if you just ripped right and attacked the hip, you could have had an advantage there. And I kept finding myself in a situation where I was coaching the kids. And it was, I coached the high school all the way down to youth basketball. It was mostly youth that I was doing this with. And I was like, I just felt this itch to coach. And I ended up, after about 4 or 5 years of doing that, I jumped into coaching. I didn't think I was ever going to coach because I was constantly still playing. I was playing professionally. And then I kind of was still hemming and hawing whether I was going to continue to play. So I was traveling around. In the summertime, I would come home and I'd referee, just do stuff, right? And then just to kind of keep stay around the game. And it was I had a kid that was 6'10", sophomore. A friend of mine was like, come to my school. He was a coach at the school. I need you to work my kid out. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And I went and worked him out a couple of times, and it came out to be became a client, a personal training client, and basketball training client. And we formed a really good relationship to the point where my buddy was like, who was the head coach, was like, you need to come over and coach with me. And that's how I got started in coaching. So it scratched that itch.
Okay, interesting. And talk us through your playing career. You obviously played professionally. You played college basketball. Talk us through that journey.
Yeah, I played basketball. I played all three sports when I was growing up. I played baseball, I played football, and I played American football, and I played basketball. And basketball happened to be the worst sport of mine, like the worst by far. It was the worst sport. I was pretty good in football and basketball. I mean, in baseball. And when I got to high school, we have here the format is you got freshman teams, JV teams, and varsity. And when the era of time I played, you had to be really, really good to go from a freshman and be on the varsity team. Now it's not so unheard of. So the track usually was you played freshman as a ninth grader. As a 10th grader, you'd advance up to the JV. And then in the 11th and 12th grade, you'd usually be on the varsity. And sometimes it'd be a strange reason why an 11th grader would be on the JV team. If it was a good kid that coaches wanted to keep around, that type of thing. But that was my trajectory was freshman varsity, freshman JV, sophomore JV, and I was on varsity for junior and senior. But I barely made my high school teams, my freshman and sophomore years, barely. I was probably like the last 1 or 2 kids chosen out of 15 on my freshman team, and the reason they kept me, I was 6'3" at the time, and but just uncoordinated and couldn't play, couldn't shoot the ball real well. And I had a miserable freshman basketball season. I had a coach who was fun to be around to a degree, but then he was he was my football coach, he was my basketball coach, and he was my baseball coach. And he was my 9th grade geography teacher. So it got old with him. What he would do, we would go around practice and we would shoot free throws, and you had to make 9 out of 12 as a team or something like that. And every day he would put me in position where I had the free throw to make or break whether we ran a suicide or not. Every day. And I couldn't shoot. I didn't make free throws. And it was just miserable. And it was like, I got miserable. Because the kids would start yelling at you. My teammates would yell at me because I'm missing free throws and we're making us run. Well, I wasn't the only guy missing free throws. I was just the one who missed the one that counted the most, right? And it just got miserable to the point where I almost stopped playing. And so then I had a different coach my sophomore year. I went out. I was playing football after football season. I practiced for like 2 days, just working out on my own. And went and I made the team. Didn't play much, and then it was until later in that season, we were playing against a team, a local school, and we were losing pretty bad. We were down like 14, 15 points, and so it was garbage time. And so 4 minutes to go in the game, coach threw us all in the game, the people who didn't play much. And for some reason, somehow I went out and I played, and I scored 14 points in that 4 minutes. And I had been getting better over time, but humans are we're creatures of habit. So you play the kids, you play your role, you play your lineup. You know who's going to play. You're 6th, 7th, 8th guy, and I never cracked that 8th guy. But after that game, scoring 14 points, I ended up starting, and the rest of the year made the varsity team. Ended up being the best player on my varsity team as a senior, and started to really get interest from colleges from the beginning of that year as Division III schools, and then midway through that, my senior year, Division II schools came in to recruit me, and then we were getting better and better, and our team was pretty good. So we ended up winning our region. We went to states, and I remember being in our regional playoffs, and Division I coaches are popping in our locker room to talk to me before the game. So I ended up having like 7 or 8 Division I offers. Maybe not even that many. I can't remember. I think it was 7. And I ended up getting offered after our season by American University, which is a local school in D.C., 8 miles from my house. And the coach called me a project. He was like, "We'll offer you a scholarship. We think you're a project. We'd love to have you come to American University." And I didn't even go on a visit. No, I take it back. I did go on an official visit, but it was the worst official visit in the history of official visits. My host, you always have a hostess with the team, and they're supposed to take you around, take you to parties. They get money to kind of give you snacks and so on and so forth. It used to be like $60. You get $60 to host a kid for the weekend. And when you're in college and you're a broke college kid, you're like, okay, I'll be the host. He took the $60 and stuffed it in his pocket, dropped me off in his dorm room, went to his girlfriend's apartment. So I'm sitting in the dorm room with we like to call it the NARPs, the non-athletic regular people. And didn't really have any association. I think we played pickup or something like that during the day, but at night we didn't do anything. He just went with his girlfriend. And I ended up committing there, which is crazy when thinking about it. And I went from this proverbial project of a player to starting 8 or 9 games my freshman year. And then my sophomore year, I was a 3rd leading scorer. Junior year, I led the conference in scoring. And then senior year, I was one of the top 2 leaders in scoring in the conference again. But I had a 5th year. So my original senior year, I hurt my knee. And then I had a stress fracture that turned into a complete fracture on my kneecap. And so I was out for 8 months with that. Had some battles mentally overcoming that. And, there was some talk that maybe I had a chance to potentially get a chance to play at the highest level. And, but after the knee injury, that never manifested. And then I ended up playing overseas. And so that was kind of the journey, the college to being, a professional in the European leagues.
Yeah. There's a huge lesson, I think, there for coaches listening of not giving up on a kid just because you were uncoordinated and you're a little bit tall. That's probably why you got your chance. Even if you're a little bit smaller, if you're uncoordinated, that kid can still go D1 and play pro. you know, and I think the GA coach here in Ireland spoke before about, I don't know, have you ever heard of Wilma Rudolph, Tim?
Wilma Rudolph. It sounds familiar.
Yeah, I won't spoil it. I'll send you the clip. I'll text you the clip after.
Okay.
It's amazing. It's an amazing story. And his whole piece was around coaches giving up on kids. And that just resonates with me. But it's interesting as well, like managing the peaks and troughs of a career in basketball, because it's great when the going is good, but when the going is bad. I think our Irish women's soccer manager said, you know, you don't get too low with the lows, you don't get too high with the highs. She said the reality is you don't get too high with the highs, but you definitely get too low with the lows. Like there's what's your advice to coaches and to players on managing those peaks and troughs?
So, you know, things have changed a little bit because everything has accelerated. It's, at least in the States here, everything has accelerated. So, and what I mean by that is that our basketball system tends to be broken. And that's a lot what my podcast is about, is how we fix our system, our basketball system. We put a lot of onus on things that are not important. And so we don't coach this mentality of being stronger about handling highs and lows, because we thrust kids out and it's all about winning. It's all about being the best player. And we forget about the development and along the lines of just this life. There are peaks and valleys in life. And I know in coaching, we talk about when kids are playing, we try to talk about being level. Like stay level, don't get too high and too low. You know, you want to be level. And if you're consistently level and you're able to perform consistently at this level, you're going to be pretty good. But along the way, there are definitely setbacks. They're from the regard of, I remember in high school for me, we had a kid who was from this small town about 45, 50 minutes from us, moved into our area, came to our high school, and we had a good team already. We had great chemistry within our team. This is going into my senior year, and I was set to have a prominent role. And this kid and his brother move in. Brother was a guard. This kid came in and he was a 6'5", and I was 6'7", 6'6", 6'7" at the time. He was 6'5", 6'6", forward, and he could shoot, and he could shoot threes. He could handle the ball. None of us other bigs that were there, I was a post player at the time, we couldn't do that. We couldn't shoot threes. And this kid was like, he was good, but he was coddled and treated differently. I remember my coach came to me and was like, you know, I'm gonna start Aaron, and you're gonna come off the bench. And I was like, you know, in my heart of hearts, I was like, why me? Like, I worked my butt off to get this opportunity, starting from like basically the bottom base, and now you're picking me because I was the easy one. Everybody else had been consistently that same level, and I all of a sudden just kind of jumped on the scene, right? So, luckily for me, the kid ended up being homesick. His dad sent him back to the small town. His brother stayed for a while, but he disappeared. And I ended up being a starter. But it was like handling that. That was, you know, I don't think it was really handled appropriately by my coach at the time, because he went with the newer, glitzier, you know, player. But there was that was a handling that situation. I had quit my other sports to play basketball. I quit basketball, baseball, I quit football, and that was my first piece of adversity. I was like, you know, this is not going to work for me. You know, everybody thinks everyone's better than me or whatever, and we don't do a great job at times of coaching how to handle that adversity. You know, and adversity is going to come. You know, my second round of adversity was as a player was when I got injured, and oftentimes, and you see it now today, it happens all the time. Got injured, and luckily, my coach figured out I was a little bit of a knucklehead, so they didn't want. Usually, when you got injured, and at that time, you didn't travel with the team; you stayed on campus. You just stayed back. Team would go to the game, they'd come home, and you'd get back involved when they come home. But my coach was like, you know, he may not go to class when we're gone, or he just didn't know what I was going to do. So he was like, no, you're coming with us. And so, but even then, like, I'm handling this adversity. I'm out for 8 months. I was immobilized for 8 months, and then I'm watching these guys play and my teammates play, and we had a successful year. Started off slow because I got hurt early in the year, and then I think we started off 1-11, and then we kind of turned it around, started playing really well. At one point in time, we were like top 2 or 3 teams in our league, and then we had a chance going into the playoffs that we were going to kind of be this dark horse to maybe win the conference and go to the NCAA tournament, which we had never been. And so I'm dealing with the emotions of, excited, we're getting better, and we have this opportunity to go to the NCAA tournament. And I can't play. You're not going to be there. And I know exactly how difficult it is at this point. This is my senior year, how hard it is to get there. And so I was dealing with a lot of emotions then of, one, not sure if I wanted to play again because I was disappointed because of the trajectory I was on has now all of a sudden been there's a bump in the road, right? So the rehab was a long process, and was I going to be the same player? If I worked as hard, I don't know. I don't want to play basketball anymore. Those mental aspects came into play, and then getting excited again because we're playing well and have a chance to go to the NCAA tournament, saying I'm not going to be able to play. And I was like to the point where I just want to play in it. Just let me play the first second and take me out, which would have cost me the next year my eligibility. And all these things are up and down. And so no one talks to you about that stuff, and no one realizes the things that you're going through. I think we just kind of move on to the next person or player in front of us. I think so. I think basketball in general, we just all need to do a better job of coaching the mental part of it, because there's so many things that is going to happen and can happen to you along the way that can break your spirit and change your trajectory, right?
Mm. When you mentioned the system is broken in America, give us an insight for us in Europe while we take over basketball. Apparently, what's happening in the States? What's the current situation?
What's been going on for the last 30 years? The AAU, or it's not necessarily AAU. AAU is an organization. We've called it AAU, the General Summer Basketball. But our summer basketball the kids are now playing year round. So they'll start out in March in the spring, summer travel season, and they'll play their teams. The kids are playing every single weekend, all the way through the end of July. And so at the end of July, we used to, when my daughter was playing, we would take the whole month of August off. We wouldn't do anything. Players would go on vacation. We would reconvene in September. Now they play all the way through. And so there'll be tournaments in August, tournaments in September, October, November. Like, they're playing year round, and they're barely practicing. Maybe they're practicing twice a week. Maybe some teams practice once a week, right? I have a little cousin who's playing, and he's in the 6th grade, and he just goes and shows up for his games. He doesn't even go to practices, and it's like, this is allowed. Like, wait a minute, that's not appropriate, right? So we just don't put an emphasis on the development and the practice like we should. So if you have the ability to go out and grab the most athletic kids, the best basketball players, that's what coaches are doing, and they put them on the team, and they go out and want to crush teams and win games, and ultimately it's not helping the kids. It's basically helping the coach. Your ego is now being satisfied, where ultimately I know because I've been in the game for so long that those kids are not being fed and grown properly. They're going to fizzle out. They're going to be some other kids that come along that are late developing, that have been working harder, and they're going to end up taking, bypassing them. And especially when it comes to boys, there's so many boys playing, but even with the girls, like it's always the proverbial. The game comes down to the proverbial athlete versus the basketball player, and we put a very big emphasis on athletes here in America. And a lot of times the teams that are coached by athletes are just roll the ball out and just want to press you all the time. They want to try and out-athlete you. And eventually what happens, if you are working on your basketball skill, your skill can negate that athleticism. But your athleticism can't always negate the basketball skill. And so we just need to have more focus on development, going back to developing. And it's hard because, Katie and I, my wife, we've been doing this stuff now for 25 years, the development piece and coaching basketball and at all levels. Like I've coached in college, I've coached high school basketball. We ran our own summer program. And we just like to put an emphasis on your skill level, your IQ. I think that especially with the women's game, there's four key skills that you need to have. You could be athletic and be a Division I basketball player. You could be super tall, be a Division I basketball player. You could be highly skilled and be a Division I basketball player. And you could have a high IQ and be a Division I basketball player. It's when you start stacking those skills, the 2s and 3s, and sometimes 4. You have all 4 of those that you now are at the upper echelons of the collegiate game. And but there's 2 of them are naturally given to you. God gave those to you. You're athletic and you're tall, right? You have no control over that. None. You can barely make yourself a little bit. You can maybe 15% of it. You can improve 15% of your athleticism. The rest of it is God given. Your height, God given. The skill and the IQ is things that needs to be worked on, and those areas need to be taught and drilled. And we're not doing enough of that, which is why you guys are the kings and queens of the sport now. You look at the NBA, and I think the top 6 or 7 players are European or international players. Because you got SGA, who was Canadian.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting to hear the perspective of it there, because we have a lot of girls, obviously, and boys, Gandhi being one of them, going to the States. And, they always make the comment that you're going over and you're playing against athletes. Like, we don't have that level of athlete here because they go and play other sports, not basketball. A lot of that probably comes down to, in terms of the development piece, patience. And I think the culture has changed thanks to the likes of the mixtapes and all these, the Instagram culture of, everything was glitz and glam, as you say, the new player, the new big name. How do you teach the patience piece in developing a player?
It's hard. I think the players want to play. So our system has developed into coddling and catering to the desires of the child. And so if you think about I'm not sure if you have children, but I have 3, right? So if you think about a child always comes up when you're raising them. They want what they want when they want it. And as a parent, it's your job to say, you can't have that now, or you can have it. You can watch TV from this time to this time. You can't just do what you want. When I was growing up, it was really rigid. You didn't get a chance to just you could do certain things at certain times, and you couldn't do what you weren't allowed. And Katie and I, we raised our kids that way. We also coached that way. So I use Azzi as an example. She's known for her prolific shooting, right? She's highly skilled, has a high IQ. When we were teaching her how to shoot the ball properly as a young player, up until 5th grade, she was not allowed to shoot 3-pointers. So we would go play games, and teams would be chucking up threes, and maybe they're making them. Some kids, they able to make them at a young age. We just know, like, we're looking at the form and with how they're heaving the ball to the rim. That's not sustainable long term. Like, you're going to have to correct that, or it's going to become significant mechanical flaws that probably are very difficult to change or fix. And so we would tell her, you're not allowed to shoot 3-pointers until you're absolutely strong enough. And we probably rode that line a little too long with her, because there was a situation that arose in a game where I don't even think we were consistently shooting threes in workouts. So, but there was a situation arose in one of her games as a young kid. Late situation, maybe it was a halftime or end of the game, and we needed a 3-pointer at the time, and she caught the ball, and because the time on the clock, turned and shot the 3. And at first, it was like, the reaction was like, no, you're not supposed to do that. But the way she shot it, it was in form. It wasn't a heave. She displayed that she had the strength to shoot them, and she made it. And we were like, okay, well, maybe now you can start. Let's start letting you shoot threes, because now you shot the ball with proper mechanics, proper form, and we can continue to build now. So Those things need to happen. There need to be limits on the game. So there needs to be, our youth, they trap, they press. The bigger, stronger teams will overwhelm the weaker teams or the teams that don't have a lot of ball handling skills. I get it; it's part of the game. But at the youth ages, you shouldn't be able to do those things. You shouldn't be able to press continuously, right? You shouldn't be able to sit in the zone defense because at the young ages, kids can't shoot. And so what are you really teaching? And you know how difficult, obviously you're involved in the game, how difficult it is to teach a young team, I'm talking about 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, to run a proper zone offense and to understand how to attack a zone offense. Very difficult to do. So I think that there's some principles and some core principles that we need to be teaching at the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. And I'd say 6 because middle school is 6 to 8 here, but at that middle school they should be starting to advance a little bit more. But 4th and 5th grade, we need to be teaching core principles about how to play man-to-man defense. Our principles are ball you man, right? So teaching the kids how to play ball you man and stand between the man and the ball, and then when the man has the basket, stand between the man and the basket. Those type of principles need to be understood because those principles will stay with you from the beginning until the last time you bounce that ball. And it doesn't matter where you play or what defense a coach wants to teach you down the road. Those principles are going to be used in, that defense. So whether you're switching man to man, whether you have a matchup zone down the road, you play a zone all the time, you still have man to man principles. And so stuff like that we need to take a step back and get back to teaching the game instead of, just rolling the ball out and letting the athletes overwhelm the non-athletes.
I think as well, the shot clock, we've 24 seconds.
Yes.
And that's introduced a lot earlier. And sorry, for any of the listeners, 6th grade would be about 11, 12. I can't remember the age the shot clock is introduced here, but it's 24 seconds. I know, so depending on your state, some high schools have 35, some don't have a shot clock. I think that's another piece that's key in terms of development. It's you're under pressure in terms of the time, because that's another part of the game you have to learn. You have to learn the timing.
Yeah, exactly. So our shot clock is 35 at our high school, and our high school's been using shot clock well over a decade. We're a private school, so we're a Catholic private school. We have our own league. The public schools, as a matter of fact, we played in the tournament last week. The public schools nationwide do not have shot clocks because the National Federation of High School Sports has not made it mandatory to have shot clocks. Like all the high schools around me, and we live in Virginia, Northern Virginia. I think throughout our state of Virginia have shot clocks already installed. But the argument is that the schools don't have enough game personnel to have someone else run the shot clock, which is, you could pay someone $20-$30 a game to do that. I mean, just grab a couple of entry fees and you have the ability to do that. But yeah, the shot clock is integral because it's understanding time, score, possession. You become, intimately aware of what the clock is on, and understand that, there's certain things that happen as well. Like you could use the shot clock to your advantage defensively. You could slow a team down with a little bit of a token press, slowing them down, getting over half court, and then making them start their offense with a shorter clock, which leads to an easier opportunity for you to defensively. Maybe they only get a chance to reverse the ball one time in the offense before they have to start looking for opportunity to score, which, I always say there's a dummy on every defensive basketball team, and we'll get lost when you're able to cut and screen. Next thing you know, they're looking for the man, but the shot clock can eliminate you from having those things happen if you play it the right way,
Yeah, 100%. I'm interested in developing Azzi's shot. I just had Adam Harrington on, NBA shooting coach with Kevin Durant. If anyone hasn't listened, you can go back to it. And we were talking about, we got into the detail of it, Tim. It was great. Barring video, we would have gone even deeper, because I was like, I'm going to lose the audience if it was audio only. But it was fascinating to hear. Just in terms of developing Azzi's shot, when did that consciously start? And just talk us through the steps of it.
Started when she first started playing basketball. So Katie and I, my wife and I have been basketball trainers, and I don't really train as much anymore because I know my time is kind of limited. But Katie has that's her business. That's what she does for work. She's a basketball trainer, and she was a prolific scorer in high school and in college. So, and she could shoot the ball really, really well. I, as you heard, I've got better over time. And when I played professionally, I was a 40% 3-point shooter. I went from playing the 5, the post, to being a 4 in college, 3 a little bit at the end of my college career, not a whole lot. And then when I went professionally, they were like, "Oh, you got to play the 2 and the 3." And I was like, "Jeez, like I've been playing post all my life," and I changed my game and was able to do that. And that was when I became a much better shooter. I could shoot threes at my into my college career, but before that, I didn't do it. So I became a really good shooter later on, and I did a lot of teaching of myself. So we just basically went back and looked at what was successful for us, and over the time, we teaching kids how to shoot. At the time Azzi came along, I was still coaching college, and I was living 3 hours away. I had an apartment 3 hours away. I'd come home on days off. So Katie was really, really instrumental in the early years of development for her and just teaching her some of the fundamentals. And when I come home, I'd work with her. And then we started both coaching her. I coached her in the summer, and Katie would coach her in the winter. And so we shared those developmental concepts with both of her teams. And so we just were really, really key on. And Katie has, it's ironic because if you watch it, look at, or you see a snippet of a photo side by side, they have the identical shot. It's the same shot. So Katie basically developed Azzi's shot, and it mirrors hers. You know, that's where her mechanics came from. My involvement with Azzi's shot was more so along the lines of teaching her how to get a quicker, faster release and how that happened. And so we would work on her footwork into her shot, as well as Katie did, her footwork into her shot. And we used to teach the 1-2 step and the jump stop into shots. But we got to this point where in our developmental years, we just said, we're teaching all of these things, but the kids aren't getting enough reps to master both ways. So they're a jack of all trades, but they're not a master of none. So we just decided to say, we're going to do the 1-2 step and the 1-2 step only. And so if you watch her shoot, she's 1-2 in everything, right? And we teach it inside step. So like if your inside step is the foot closest to the basket. If you're on the wings, whatever, if you're driving to your left, it will be you're on the right wing driving to the left to the middle lane. It would be your right foot, left foot shot. And you would hear us saying, "Oh, it's a right left shot, left shot, left right shot, left right shot," and just kind of honing those things. And then one summer, I think she was in 6th grade. I can't remember what grade it was then. I was coaching my boys, and we had gym time, and so we would go to the gym, and we as coaches, we would always get there a little early, half hour early, stay a little later, and pissing the janitors off, trying to kick us out. But we would get extra work in. And so one summer we just honed in on her quick release. And I just talked to her about your quick release has nothing to do with your hands or your arms. It's not you doing this motion faster. The motion, your quick release starts in your feet. And so the quicker you get your feet set, the 1-2, the quicker you get to the release of the ball. So everything gets faster. So we worked on, I showed her some clips of Steph Curry shooting his quick release, and then also Klay Thompson. And so this is what we want to get to. And I said, so I just kind of walked around the 3-point line, and I had 2 balls, and I would fire rapidly at her so that she had to shoot and quickly get to the 1-2 for the next shot. And it was just me flipping the ball to her 4 feet away from her, maybe. And you can't linger into the last shot. So, we want that. Eventually, we want you to shoot the ball and hold your follow through and all of those things. But right now, we're not focusing on that. The ball, you shoot it, and you're on to the next shot, right? So that was very important. So we just did that for an entire year, and then next thing you know, her release was getting quicker and quicker and quicker to the point where it is where it is today. But it was a long haul. I mean, even now, sitting and watching games is hard because Katie and I, we developed the shot, right? And we know the shot intimately, and we have all the intricate details of it. And there's times where you're like, I have information. The other day they played a game versus who was it? Iowa, and she didn't shoot the ball great in the first half. Those rims in the Barclays Center is notoriously for being really stiff and hard. So she had to hone her shot to fit those rims, and it took a while. And so I had information. I was sitting there. Halftime comes, and I'm like, she comes out. I have information. I have some details to tell her that maybe would help her figure it out. And she never looks. She never looks at us. And it's interesting because she has to figure it out on her own. And so you sit back, and at times you always wonder, are they going to remember the things that you taught them over time, and then remember to go through the steps of honing. It's just like a marksman. You're off by a little bit. Can you narrow it to the point where you've mastered it and honed it? And she ended up doing that in the second half. And it's like, so you always have those things, but she was taught to do that. Like, you got to get to the point where you know your shot so well that every little detail of it that you're like check some balances. All right, I'm holding my follow through. Okay. And my hand placement on the ball. Okay. Is it my feet? Am I getting enough legs in it? Am I lifting my shot, to a high release? Am I pushing it? You're reading these details on minimal. It's different when you're in the gym shooting and you're just repping it out. You can figure those things out over a number of reps. But in the game, you don't always get a number of reps. You get to figure it out quickly off of, a fewer attempts. So just teaching that stuff, that was a big piece of her development.
How do you teach the mentality of it? Because as we spoke about already, the importance of the mental side, the piece around learning and adjusting, but shooting and keep shooting even when it's not going in, and dealing with slumps. How do you develop that?
That's the tough part, because we talked about that earlier, riding the highs and lows, right? Every player that's ever played this game, that will play this game, will ride made and miss shots. You're going to do it. And we coach the game. We'll tell players, you cannot live and die on made and miss shots. Is one of my favorite sayings as a coach, as a developmental coach, right? You can't live and die on made and miss shots. So, and what that would mean would be like, I'd see a variance in body language from when you made the shot and when you missed the shot. It's like, you're getting frustrated. You're living and dying on every shot. You can't live and die on made and miss shots, because you're going to make them and you're going to miss them. So you could shoot the ball perfectly. And that was what's going on in the first half. If you go back and watch some of that stuff, when the first half, her shot was going into the rim, and the minute it touched the rim was boom, out. It were literally rattle around and come out, every single shot. And so, what that was telling me is like, you're right where you need to be. You're in the right vicinity. But if you're going to get frustrated by that, then you're never going to figure it out. You're done, right? So you have to make micro adjustments. What's the micro adjustment you need to make to stop touching the rim, to rattle around, or get it to the point where it's going straight in, because those rims were notoriously hard. So you can't. You talk to the kids about that emotion that goes in made and missed shots. You got to be even keeled. And you got to be stoic, and you can be frustrated, but the frustration has to lead you to finding a solution and the answer quickly, right? Because it's like a puzzle. But if you get frustrated, you may have missed a shot, and you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to show that negative body language. I can guarantee you the next 2 or 3 you're going to miss, because you're not focused on finding a resolution. You're frustrated because you're not getting the solution you want. So it's hard. Every player that's going to play the game is going to deal with that emotion. And if you can channel that emotion and manage it correctly, then you have the ability to make those quicker, faster adjustments when needed.
Love that. Yeah, that's brilliant. What's the most underrated skill in the game at the moment, Tim?
Oh, underrated skill in the game, in my opinion. Most underrated skill. I would say for us in America, it's passing. So there was a time when I played younger, we would spend an inordinate amount of time like passing the basketball in practice. We didn't really do a whole lot of workouts and stuff like that. That wasn't really a thing then, but we would spend time like, passing the ball where we would go you would pass, the ball's in your hands, your thumbs would be behind the ball, and you would pass, and your hands would go out. And that was how it was taught. If you watch kids pass the ball now today, it's like they throw passes and it's kids. I'm not always saying the older players, but the kids, they throw passes from their shoulders across their body with one hand. It's always strong hand dominant, and passing is not being taught the way it used to be taught. And so we're not developing those skills enough.
How do you manage in terms of the parent, coaching as a parent and managing that relationship? I have a lot of parents that listen, that coach, and I have a lot of coaches that listen, as well. But probably never spoken about it before on the podcast. I'm interested to get your insights as a parent coaching your kid. How do you manage that relationship?
Well, first, it's viewed as negative here. Parent coaches, they call them parent coaches, and we always like stop people. Like, listen, we're not parent coaches. We were coaches before she came along. We were already coaching. She's 23 years old. I've been coaching she's for 25 years now. So she was not around when I was coaching. So that it's like, we would like to stop the negative connotation about dealing with parent coaches. Here, the reason why it's a negative is because when Johnny or Jill doesn't make their team, the parents go, because people have means here, they form their own team and they coach their own team, and they coach Johnny and Jill on that team. And so that's how the parent coach's negative connotation comes about. Like, the parents are constantly trying to move away obstacles from the kids. Okay, my kid didn't make your team. Well, guess what? I'm going to form my own team and we're going to play. And that's one of the things that needs to stop in America, is that everybody's playing, or there's too many teams. There's too many teams. Everybody shouldn't be playing at a high level. But when the kid doesn't make a team, they have the right to go make their own team. And then when that happens, it's like, it's one of those things that has just been detrimental to the game over time. But like, I have absolutely no issue with parents coaching their kids. And if you have a background in coaching and player development, absolutely, you should be involved, right? There are things that can happen that parents need to be careful of. Just coddling your kid or creating a situation where they're always the best player. Those things, becoming the best player, should happen organically. It shouldn't happen because you just formed this team and your son or daughter is going to be on a team and they're going to be the best player because you've set it up to be that way. Ultimately, it's going to fail. It's like building a house on sinking sand. It's going to collapse. Sooner or later, it's going to collapse because you're going to meet somewhere down the road with a player or with a team that's been properly developed, right? And so that's the one thing. It has to be things that have to be put in place so that it organically happens. You don't want to just prop your child up and put them in a situation where they're the best player. Also, like, study and get better, grow the game, and be honest with your kid. I think one of the most important things as well is knowing when to say when. And what I mean by that is that when you're coaching and you're in the coaching environment, whether it's practice or game, when you walk out of that gym, that you have to make a concerted effort to leave what just happened where it happened and go back. We try to do that with our kids, is that when we moved from the game back to home life, that the game didn't come with us. When we went back in the gym, maybe the game came back alive and, okay, on Saturday you did such and such in the game at this point in time and you should have did this, right? But when we walked out of the gym, I made a concerted effort to go back from coach to dad. I wanted to, and one crazy story for us is that, especially with Azzi, I would be like, hey, you want to get something to eat, or you want to get some ice cream? And that was the sign that I was now going. For me, I was transitioning. I was transitioning back to being dad, and we're not talking about basketball anymore. We're just going to go have a loving relationship that we do, and we're going to just have fun, and we're going to do the things we like to do. And it used to drive Katie crazy because she was like, she doesn't need any ice cream, or I'm like, oh, well, no, we're going to get ice cream, right? So that was our big thing, just making sure that you separate the two so that you maintain the sanctity of your parental relationship, child-parent-child relationship, you know?
Yeah. That I was the screen here to my right, and while I was looking off, I was trying to find the video, but I think I recall it anyway. Abby Wambach, for anyone that doesn't know, legend of a soccer player, has a podcast as well. She was saying what she uses now with her kids. She's 3 questions. Did you enjoy it? Something about, did you learn something? And then the last one was, what was an interesting what was an interesting thing that another kid did? And it's very interesting, if you doesn't know, she's a legend of the sport. She could easily say you could have done X or Y, or but it's managing that relationship. It's not about the wins or the losses, and that's the other thing, isn't it? It's all about winning.
Yeah, that's the plague that is problematic in our youth basketball world. Oh, and it's youth sports, period, really, right? We place so much emphasis on wins and losses that, some parents who may or may not have played, a lot of them who haven't played are living vicariously through their kids and putting this undue pressure on them to be, the superstar athlete at a young age. And there's a process. Like, I didn't become who I am today. I wasn't who I am today at 7, 8, 9 years old. No, I was going through my trials and tribulations to form the person I am today, right? So it's the same thing. You're the player that you were at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old is not ultimately going to be a player that you are 18, 19, 20, 21 if you're able to play all the way out, right? So understand that everything is developmental and everything is formative, and that you're teaching the right concepts and that you're teaching the right ways to handle situations. Because ultimately, sport is teaching life lessons, and if you handle these situations properly, you're kind of molding them into being great individual people later on in life, and that's something that I think we're failing to continue to develop those individuals that way. So
yeah, the other piece I think is interesting. The develop or the evolution more so of college basketball is recruiting, particularly in the last since NIL has come in.
yeah.
Just talk us through recruiting now. What's your thoughts on it? I haven't been through it and now seeing it as a father, but also from a coach perspective.
I think it's getting harder for the high school kids here, from the standpoint of, one, I think it's harder for them to genuinely be recruited, because it's not just the NIL piece, and that has a major impact on it, but it's what's significantly impacting the high school kids from being recruited genuinely is the transfer portal. That has changed everything, because now a lot of coaches don't want to go younger. They'll still recruit high school kids, but they're also going to recruit an older player from the portal that could help, like, balance bridge a gap from a player that just transferred to a player that is coming in, and then you can bring another older player in right in the middle of it and smooth the transition. And it has just caused a lot of chaos in the world of college sports. So, like, for instance, I have a kid that just got recruited and committed to play at Florida State. She's on my high school team. And we were having a conversation, and, her team, Florida State's not doing great so far this year. And she said, she was asking me if I thought it was coaching. I was like, I don't think it's the coaching. I said, I just think they don't have the talent right now, and they're rebuilding, which, I didn't say this part to her, but I was like, which puts in my mind, they're probably going to jump in the portal and grab somebody that can bridge the gap, because you got young kids coming in. Young kids most possibly are the best they were going to be as juniors. So that means there's a 2-year window to get them to junior year. How do you bridge that gap? You bring in an older player, you limit their playing time, you make them continue to grow and develop. And a lot of kids going in with this different mindset to a situation, and all of a sudden they walk into that and they don't stick around. They leave. They jump in the portal. So the transfer portal has been detrimental to college recruiting. But ultimately, like for the NIL part of it, this is one of the things that needs to change too, because we've been going in the wrong direction with our youth basketball system from a developmental standpoint for years. But now there's money in it, and parents and players know that they can get paid, mostly the parents. And the focus is fast tracking kids to that point. We just recently shut our AAU program down, our summer program down, because we couldn't keep kids in our program year over year. They would come, they'd play for a year, and the next year they would go somewhere else. And you're never going to get everything you need to get from a coach or situation unless you stay in that situation, especially if it's one that's positive and you're growing. You got to be in it for years. Otherwise, it's going to be you're just coming and you're just getting a little bit of knowledge and you're moving on, which is different. And how we built our program was based off of, it was like a family atmosphere. You stick around, you're hanging out at our house, you're doing, those things didn't exist anymore. So you're not getting the total development. You're just coming along and trying to put yourself in position to get that money, right? We'd had players come in the program and say, "Can you pay for us? We need you to pay for our travel. We need you to do this." And it was like, this is not what it is. You're at the level where you should be focusing on getting better and earning those opportunities later on, as opposed to, finding ways to get them now. And so the NIL has changed a lot of things in terms of the recruiting. It's changed the focus of the parents even more. Like, they've shifted to try and focus on how to get that money. And the money is not sustainable. It's just not if you go to the next level and someone recruited you and you flounder and you don't make it, they're getting someone else. That money's going to disappear from you. It's going to go somewhere else. And ultimately, because you didn't focus on the things you need to focus on prior to getting to the point where you can get some money, you're going to miss out on the long term of it. So it's important, but it's hard. It is hard to get people to focus on doing things the slow, methodical way to get to the proverbial bag, as opposed to this. They want to skip all these steps. And one of my favorite sayings also is, there's a process to progress. And everybody's process is different. You and me, what I had to go through as a player and what you have to go through as a player is going to be different. It could be taught by the same person, but it's going to be different. And you have to embrace your journey. And if you're not embracing that journey, the things that should be important to you, you're going to miss over them, and they're going to pass you by. So that's the stint. That's my viewpoint on all of it. I think we are chasing these NIL situations, and kids end up being recruited in bad situations, and this making the transfer portal, over 1,000 players every year in the transfer portal because they're not happy with the situation or they're looking for something more.
Yeah, a couple of things jump to mind there. One of them being, I was listening to a former hurling inter-county player here, would have been a lead athlete, and he said, if I had a team now, I'd focus on experiences outside of the sport. So kind of what you were saying with your program, whereas other people, they're not letting the kids be kids, and there's another great line. It was like, if you took parents out of kids sports, it'd be the greatest thing in the world, but obviously can't do that. You said about the your experience as a player is different to experiences of, every experience is different. I'm just interested in terms of these knee injuries, because you were injured. How did you help her with that and the way she's handled it, and obviously come back nearly a better player than before?
I was talking about this the other day. One of the things that the only way I could help her was from a mental aspect. And, I obviously there to love her and support her. And I was devastated for the first time it happened for her. But, having gone through it myself, I told her, she's laying on the couch or what have you. I said, look, doesn't matter what we tell you. Doesn't matter what anybody tells you. Everybody's going to say, hey, it's okay. You're going to be better. You're going to be okay. You'll come back stronger. All these things. And they could be true, and they are true. But until you wrap your mind around what you need to do and how you're going to come back, because I was basing it back on my situation where I started to doubt whether I wanted to play again. because of the difficulty of the rehab and the length of the rehab. It was just a long process, and not being able to play the game and being away from it was depressing. And so I said to her, until you wrap your mind around what you need to do and decide that you're going to do those things, doesn't matter what anyone else tells you. You have to decide that you're going to attack the rehab. You're going to have to decide that you're going to overcome the tough days. You're going to have to decide that you want to be back on the floor the way you were prior. So once you decide that, then everything's going to be happening for you. But until you do, it's going to be a mental struggle. And I think that was the best advice I could have for her. And the best thing I could do for her was to continue to support and love her and give her the love that she needed to do those things. But it's a mental battle, and it's a mental decision that you have to make, that you're going to, I'm going. It's almost like a person who gets in a car accident and they're paralyzed and they decide, I'm going to walk again. Like you walking again, that's not saying you're just going to get up and start walking again. You're going to fight through every process to find a way to walk again, right? And that doesn't always happen, because sometimes it's not capable of doing that. But you decide that you're going to do everything you can to do it, and then see what happens at the end, right?
Mm-hmm. How do you, as a parent, conscious that other parents listening as well, just in terms of Azzi as a brand, like, she's our podcast now, Foot Around and Find Out, great listen, NIL stuff, just being a parent of an athlete that has a brand and being very conscious of that?
We've been very conscious of her brand, or had to teach her to be very conscious of her brand at an early age. Um, she was kind of thrust into this limelight as a young player, as being like the next face of the game, one of the next faces of the game. It'd have been, I would say, it was her, it was Paige, it was Caitlin Clark. They all ironically played on the same youth USA basketball team together. And
that was a stacked team.
It was. I mean, you look at that team and it's like, I think all but two are, well, Azzi's not yet, but all but two have WNBA opportunities. And it was a real vibe around that team. And like, you could tell that people thought this group was going to be different, game-changing, different. And so that they were thrust in the limelight. And Azzi made that team as youngest to ever make a 16 USA basketball team. She was in the 8th grade at the time. So she was younger, obviously, than everybody else. But she's always been taught and coached to handle herself properly. Like, just like, you can't post these things on social media, because you're going to get recruited by coaches, and they're going to look at your social media, and you don't want people forming opinions of you, who you are, based off things that you may post on social media. And that could have been anything. That would, at a young age, was like, we talked about not posting bikini pics, because for multiple reasons, right? Just like for these people who are lurking online that are stealing pics and doing inappropriate things with them, right? So then, but it was also posting where she's in high school and she went to go to parties, don't take pictures and get posted with people holding red Solo cups, because everybody equates the red Solo cup as they're drinking, right? So you need to be conscious of that, and don't be in a situation where, if you're at a party and people are drinking, if people are smoking weed, if you need to just be bigger than that and leave, right? Don't be engaging in those types of activities and things of that nature, because there are always haters lurking around, and people want to find a way to tear you down when good things are going for you. That's how life goes. So we're just kind of educating her on some of that stuff, and just having the wherewithal to be careful about things that are being posted, or people who are taking pictures if a camera's around, and kind of stepping away from some of those things. And at times she would say, I hate this because I can't be a regular person, and this and that. But she was really good about it for the most part, about understanding that, well, do you want to do this at this level? If you want to do it at this level, these are things you got to do. And there were sacrifices that were made along the way all the time. Like, she couldn't hang out with her friends a lot of times because we were constantly in the gym working, right? She couldn't do certain activities because we were gone for basketball. So there were a lot of sacrifices she made growing up to achieve the level of play that she achieved. And, we would always have checkups along the way. And we're like, listen, do you still want to do this? Is this still what you want to do? Because if it's not, it's fine. We can pivot. We could change. We don't have to do this. And she would always say, yeah, this is what I want to do. So, and at times if there was a time when she got frustrated about something, we would have those talks. Is this what you want to do? Because if you want to do it, then this is the way you have to do it. And then she would kind of wrap her mind around it, and we would move forward. So it was just honest conversation a lot of times with her growing up, and giving her opportunities to fully understand what she was getting involved in,
And that was one thing when I met you guys there a couple of weeks ago in November. Was with a group of people, and I've seen it from the online piece as well. Just she's so down to earth. She was so relaxed, and her approach. I know online, people say hello and she do you want your pictures and stuff, like she just manages it so well, and that's a credit to you guys and to her as well, obviously, and just being the consummate role model, from day one, and embracing that.
Yeah.
And that's an important piece as well, being a star player.
Yeah. She embraced being one of the young faces of the game at a young age, 8th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. She was she knew that she was being looked at differently, and she handled it really, really well. And she has never really been she's very conscientious of the things that she does anyway. She's, even as a young toddler, I tell people all the time that we used to have this pluck system. So if one of the kids was not doing what they were supposed to be doing, we would pop them with the pluck. Like, hey, what are you doing? Or you need to sit down, right? And Azzi at a young age, she had to be like 3, maybe 3.5. She didn't like it. She did not like getting plucked. She got upset, and she made this conscientious decision that she was not going to cross the line. She knew where the line was, and she'd get to the line, and she was like, okay, I'm gonna slide back. I don't want to get popped again. So, she's always had this like demeanor where she's always doing the right thing for the most part, right? Now she's a kid and this stuff happens, but she never really like my boys were different. They towed the line. They crossed it, and they tried to jump back before you found out. They still do that to this day, and they're 21 and 19 years old. So the difference in their upbringing, it's the same, but the difference in how they handle things is way different. She was like, I don't want to disappoint people. I don't want to disappoint my parents. I don't want to make them mad. So she would work to do everything that you asked her to do.
What did you pick for Steph Curry? She's obviously trained with him a good bit, been signed with SC30 Inc. Just from a coaching perspective, even watching his workouts, I love watching clips and what he does. What have you picked up?
First of all, he's amazing. He's been amazing for Azzi, and his trainer, Brandon Payne, has been a really good friend and coach to Azzi as well. He trains a lot like how we developed Azzi. In terms of challenging her to just get better and be better. And so watching Steph, how methodical he is, how he works, the effort. They're very similar in personality as they're working and playing, really low emotion. You see him celebrating shots and stuff like that in the NBA. But when he's working out, he's so locked in and focused on every intricate detail that he wants to learn. He wants knowledge, and they're both very similar when like they'll do a drill or something like that, and at the end of it, Brandon will make some just notate some things he saw, right? And the way that they lock in on him and listen to every detail and then make those changes when they do the drill again the next time, it's just amazing. And so I think for Azzi to be able to see him do that as being such a high level athlete and basketball player, has been like, you see the success, you see how it's helped him, right? But also just the fact that he is such a genuine, down to earth human being that, he's been successful at being that. We don't have to change who you are to be successful. And I think that's been a major point of the mentorship that he's provided with Azzi. That you just get to see him be him represent who he is really, really well, and do it with energy and enthusiasm that is unseen in professional athletes.
That my favorite question I ask every guest is what separates the best from the rest. Like, what makes the 1% the 1%. You've seen it across all levels in terms of being a pro, coach, referee, everything. What's your answer? What is it?
I think it's a desire. Like there is a desire to seek out answers. So, and I'll give you a snippet of a story about how it works, right? Um, growing up, there were a few times where I always look at Azzi's eyebrows, and a lot of kids have it. I don't have the ability to do it with my eyebrows, but they'll get frustrated and their eyebrows kind of go up, like they kind of go this way, and I'm always talking about furrow your brow, and the difference between this like wanting face or this kind of like I don't know what you call it, but it's like you want someone to help. You're wanting someone to save you in that moment, almost like um, as opposed to the furrowed brow, you're seeking and you're finding. So I think the 1%, the desire to seek and find answers that could either help you or change how things are going for you in the moment is what separates that 1%. I said, I know when Azzi's wanting answers and I know when she's looking for them. So just on the basis of the brow, and most people won't see it, but I can see when she's at the furrowed brow, she is actually out there. And there's pictures. I'd have to send you a picture. Let me see if I can find one. But there's pictures that really show it. And what she's like, you can see this desire to find an answer and to get it, as opposed to hunting for answers or wanting someone to solve a problem for you. I sent one to someone recently. I'll send you a copy of one when I find it. But there was a picture that someone posted, and you could just see this. I think it's on this poster too. This face right here. Yeah, there's a face there that is like the 1%. They find it. They're gonna go look for it. They're not gonna wait for it to be given to them. And I think that goes when you talk about the world of athletics. The best players in the world are people who are going to be problem solvers in the midst of chaos. They're going to find the problem, solve it, fix it, and move on. That's the 1%.
Yeah. I actually recorded with Coach Hootie the day after I met you. I was up on campus and
Yeah.
we did a podcast. She's amazing. And we were talking about, I've mentioned here before, one of my answers is like finding clarity in the chaos. Can they be,
Yeah.
Can you be level headed when it's all emotion and pressure and, the physical elements? Can they be locked in? It's interesting.
It's very different. That's very, very interesting that being locked into that chaos. People don't understand how chaotic some of those situations are when you're in it. And it can be so chaotic that there's so much noise coming in, and not actual noise, but there's so much things happening around you that, can you lock in and basically quiet the noise so that you can, focus on the things that some movies, you see some movies that do a good job of showing people in the moment of something huge where the noise kind of gets muffled a little bit, and you can see the hyper focus comes into play.
Yeah. I love the ads where, and I don't think they, when they track the head, so like someone be running and everything else is moving but the head and it kind of stays straight. I love that because to me that's the clarity in the chaos. It's like, can you, the vision. When did you realize that she could be with those 1% that, that locked in? When did it hit you?
She was young. She was probably, when I first started to realize that she could be a Division I player was when she was probably in the third, fourth grade. She had something different, right? And so then when I figured out that she could actually be a 1%er was probably 6th, 7th, 8th grade, right around there. And then it was kind of solidified when she did her first USA trials. And you go in the gym, it's 150 kids in there. They invite like 35 kids. They send in actual invites to 35, but it's an open invitation, so you can apply to go. And so because she was in the 8th grade, they never invite 8th graders at the time. I don't know if they changed that or not, but they didn't invite 8th graders. So we got a phone call from one of the committee members who we knew. And he said, Azzi is not getting an invite. Just want to let you know the reason why her name came up multiple times, that they don't invite 8th graders. But I was told to reach out to you because I know you, to encourage you guys to come to the trials, to apply to come to the trials. And then basically he's saying, she didn't get an invite, but you guys still need to come. They want you to bring her. And so we ended up having so if you get an invite, they fly you out, they put you up. You're on campus. If you apply and you get in, you got to fly your way out there. You got to get a hotel. You got to feed yourself, all of those things. And so it actually worked out to be better in our benefit because we could kind of have her decompress when she was with us in the evenings. But that's when I saw it, that she had this ability. And you can't coach your kid. So, that was the first time we were never involved with coaching her. They're doing drills. For the first day, parents aren't even allowed in the gym. Second day, you can go in and you can watch. You don't even, you can't tell your kid, oh, you should do this, you should do that. None of that. You get frowned upon. They basically are looking at you like, oh, we don't need that, right? You're not going to let us coach the kid, then we don't need it. And so it's a testing ground. It was a test. You got to go out there and you got to perform. Are you going to remember the details and the principles that we've been teaching you for the last several years, right? Because there's times when we have to remind you of those principles, right? And she went out there and she did everything that she was taught to do, and it was like she put it on display. We didn't coach her, didn't say a word, and the only thing I told her a couple times before the teams were made, I was like, so you do know those things. Okay. All right. So you've been playing cat and mouse with us or whatever. And so she just laughed, but she ended up eventually making the team. And that's when I saw, and this is the best 150 girls in the country at that age group, right? At the U16 age group. And obviously she was in the 8th grade, but she outperformed the majority, and it was like, to make the team. It was an emotional moment. I remember that. And Katie and I just kind of crying because it was like, this is crazy for her. We didn't expect any of that stuff. We just kind of wanted to see how she would fare. And she went out and she performed really, really, really well. She was always a 2-guard. She played some point every once in a while, to the point where they looked at her and they put her at the point guard the second day. And we're like, okay, she put her at point guard in this one game, the 10-minute segment or whatever, playing a game. And then she never played 2-guard ever again. We're like, she is literally the best scoring 2-guard in the country at the time. Why not let her play her position? They're not letting her play her position. It's starting to get frustrated. Like, come on, man, they're not letting her play her position. This is ridiculous. And she made the team as a point guard. It was like, okay, well, this kid has something. And they said she just did everything you asked her to do. Well, that's what they want. And so that's when I noticed. I was like, okay, she's got something really, really special at that time. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, look, if she ever wants to make the Irish national team, I can make a
call.
So
that she got that Irish blood in her. She's got the Irish blood,
Yeah. I was chatting to Irish Papa there at the game as well. Yeah. So I got him that T-shirt and stuff. What for any parent listening that has a talented kid, what advice do you give them, or maybe what do they need to hear that they don't maybe want to hear sometimes?
Stay out of the way, and be present, but stay out of the way. I obviously, it's different for me. I was coaching, right? So I was there in the midst of it, and I was not in the way, but I was on that journey with her. And we're all on the journey as parents. We're all on the journey, but allow them to figure some things out. And we got to get back to removing ourselves from being what we like to say, like a snowplow, where you're going to plow this clear road for them. There's no such thing in life as a clear road. You're going to handle some adversity, and helping them understand that there is going to be adversity, one, and then two, that how to handle the adversity is huge. But we can't clear the obstacles from the kids along the way. There's going to be something that they're either going to be prepared for or unprepared for, and it's going to be trajectory changing. Are they going to be able to handle this and continue to move forward, or are they going to hit the speed bump going too fast, and the car breaks down and you're on the side of the road, right? So we just got to stay out of the way in terms of trying to clear the path and just continue to help them understand that when adversity hits, this is what you need to do to handle it,
Yeah. What advice would you give young players and coaches listening?
Work on your games. We have a generation that is hyper-focused on highlights and social media highlights and social media mentions. Here in America, I literally have had kids tell me, former players tell me, all I want to do is be mentioned on Twitter, coach. It's like, what? That's not the focus. And understand that, one of the things I said earlier is that your process is different from someone else's process, and you got to embrace your journey. Some of us are going to be born and be rich. Some of us are going to be born and be average citizens. Some of us are going to be born and have to work our butts off just to make ends meet. And you got to embrace your journey. And so you can't be like, woe is me, I wish I had that, or I want to be like them. And it's good to acknowledge people who may be in different situations, but embrace your journey. Don't run from it, because what's been given to you is going to make you the person you are down the road.
Love it. Love it. I've loved this conversation, Tim. I want to ask you, who should I get on? And I might need your help for whoever you do suggest. So.
Oh gosh, who should you get on? I don't know. I know. Well, I do know a lot of people. So let me think about that, and I'll let you know.
Yeah,
because there's some good people that'll be good for you, and we'll learn. My buddy who was on my podcast is one of them. He'd be great. He's a former college coach as well, and someone I met and became really good friends with him. Was the best man in my wedding. We met playing basketball in Spain. So. Larry Davis, and he was on my podcast, and he's really, really good as well.
Yeah, I loved that episode. That was really good. I'm going to move on to the sideline 7, Tim. It's the same questions at the end of every episode.
Yep.
Question 1. I get the sense you are a quotes man, so I'm interested to hear, what's your favorite quote?
Oh my goodness, favorite quote. I thought about this one. I'll give you my favorite coaching quote. How about that?
Go for it.
So, I would tell my kids all the time, the 3 E's: energy, effort, and it's 3 E's, and I've added an A, but it's the 3 E's: energy, effort, and enthusiasm. Those are the things that you can control. Control your controllables: your energy, your effort, and your enthusiasm, and your attitude. Everything else you can't control. But if you control those things, you can make things go the way you want them to go.
Love that. Love it. Question 2, best sporting event you've been to. Pick one as a fan, one as a player, one. Actually, do you know what? Just pick one. I was going to give you all the different ones, but you just pick whatever comes to mind.
Yeah. Because I didn't go to many as a player. I can't remember many as a player. So I'll give you one just in general as a fan. The Final Four. The men's Final Four is different than the women's Final Four, and I'd have to say, I wish the NCAA would fix that. But the men's Final Four is unbelievable. So I got to go to Final Fours for 6 years as a college coach. And I never went to the game, but the atmosphere around everything in whatever city it was in was just unbelievable. You could just walk around for hours. It's like the vibe is unmatched. So I would say the Final Four.
What's it actually, is bonus question, what's it like being a parent of a child playing in a national championship game?
It's never as fun as it looks. No game is ever as fun as they make it look, right? So it looks like we're just having loads of fun in the stands. I think I don't know if it's because we're coaches or what, but it's loads of anxiety. I mean, like I'm losing years of my life every game. So, you know, so we don't have a whole lot of access at UConn. UConn really does a tremendous job of segregating the kids from the parents. You know, we have access to them, but these kids are different, and they abide by what the team wants, what the coach wants. And so we don't really have a whole lot of access to them. We'll get to see them at times, and we'll go spend 20 minutes at a hotel the night before the game or what have you. But a lot of times, they're segregated from the parents, and so you don't really have a whole lot of access to them. You can text them or whatever and call them, but we try to honor that and not interfere. And so the anxiety can build because you don't have any say so whatsoever in what's going on. And so that's the big thing is that you're used to having that input you no longer have. And so that the anxiety in those games is just huge. And going into the national championship game, you just want them to, one, enjoy the experience. Like, this is something that we've never done, that you'll look back on and say, hey, look, I went to national championship. She has had a chance of playing two at this point. And so just enjoy it and embrace it, right? Whatever happens, happens. But then sitting there, like last year, just sitting in that arena, and we do a lot of cheering. We cheer for the defense every play, and we cheer for everybody's kid, try to alleviate anxiety and give them supportive faces that are around, right? Because there's a lot going on, like the noise, right? We try to be the positive noise. And so we just remember sitting in that arena and things are unfolding the way they were unfolding, and not saying anything about how she was playing, but she's like, oh my goodness, she's playing like really, really well. And this is a great opportunity for us to win the national championship. And then as the things are happening and we win that national championship, I just remember we got to go on the floor right afterwards, and the parents got to be down there. And so my wife and I, we got separated. There's so many people on the floor, and I was near Azzi was giving an interview. And I'm just super happy, smiling, and I'm like videotaping and doing all this other stuff. And she's like, she hadn't even seen me. I'm like literally 3 feet from her, and she's focused on this lady's questions who's interviewing her. And the lady finishes the interview, and she turns around, and looks at me, and instantly, it was crazy. She looked at me, I looked at her, and the smiles went into tears. Both of us crying. It was like, my wife kind of found us, and we're all three of us standing there. We're just all crying. It's because it was the emotion around that moment of winning the national championship, overcoming the adversity that she had faced up to that point, and having a significant role on a team that won the national championship. It was like the level, immense amount of pride that was going through me at the time, and my wife at the time I couldn't even put it on a scale to rate it for you. It was unbelievable, the emotion behind all of it.
And then named most outstanding player.
Yes, I didn't even hear that because we were funny because they moved them to the stage, and the speaker system, I guess, blares out to the stands. And so when we were down on the floor, you couldn't hear what the person on the mic was saying. It was very faint. It's loud in there. And so I'm standing there, I'm videotaping the scoreboard, and our senior women's administrator who travels with the team, she was standing next to me. She was like, she won the MOP. I was like, what? And she's like, they just said she won the MOP. And I was like, no way. Are you serious? Like, I knew she had played well, and Sarah played well, and just it could have went either way. And I thought Azzi played really, really well and was an intricate part of just kind of busting the game wide open early and setting the tone for us and stuff like that. But that was amazing. It was amazing when I found out about that, and how I found out about it was just even funnier because I didn't hear a thing.
Yeah, brilliant. That's a great story. Tim, biggest setback or challenge so far in your career, and how did you react to it?
Biggest setback. So there's been a lot. I would say my biggest setback was my injury. and figuring out how to. I was a first generation college graduate. No one in my family played basketball to the level that I played, or sport to the level that I played. So there wasn't really anybody who could help me understand um, some of that stuff. So I was in a position where I had to figure it out. I had to figure out how to overcome it. Figure out if I was going to wanted to continue to play. All of those things. So that was, I think I just lost my light. But
You were
anyway,
pro with the lights and everything.
yeah. Well, yeah, I've inherited some of this stuff, but anyway. So yeah, so I had to figure out all of that, whether I was going to be able to maintain that level of desire. And so I was really in a dark place at the time. I wouldn't say I was depressed. I was just depressed that I wasn't playing. I was missing the game I loved. So that was hard. That was my biggest challenge as a player.
On the flip side then, your biggest achievement on or off the court?
Biggest achievement on or off the court? I would say a couple things. I would say, becoming a professional basketball player and having those experiences were huge. And then, we've been as a coach, we've been able to be involved with over 300 athletes over the last 25 years, helping them achieve and realize their dreams, whether it was small-time Division III college basketball or professional basketball. We've been involved with people who have achieved their dreams, and it's nothing like that feeling of helping someone, achieve their dreams.
Amazing. Question 5, advice to your 18-year-old self?
Stay the course. Don't, again, I equate all this stuff to learning from the game. But there are going to be ups and downs, and don't let the downs define who you are, and continue to put one foot in front of the other. And those experiences, whether they're positive or negative, make you who you ultimately were going to become.
Amazing. Question 6, dream dinner guest or podcast guest, and why?
If I could go back in time, I would love to have another moment with Kobe Bryant. I shortly before he passed, Azzi worked out with Nafisa Collier and Gigi in New York at the NBA Players Association. They were a small gym in this high-rise building in New York, and Azzi had previously gone out and worked with him in LA and her team, Gigi's team. So they had a steadfast relationship. They were just kind of Kobe used to have Gigi watch Azzi and her games and stuff like that, and then he would wanted to help her develop and stuff like that. So then we had the chance to meet up with them in New York over the holiday break. We were up there for a high school game, and then Azzi was not playing at the time, but we ended up being able to meet up with them, and I had like a 45-minute conversation with him, and nothing like you'd ever think a conversation would be about. It's kind of like having conversations with Steph. We don't really talk about the game. We just it kind of boils down to what commonalities we have. We're freaking former basketball players. Kobe and I were former basketball players who were dads of these amazing kids. And we talked about being dads and watching them play and the development and stuff like that. And so that was an amazing conversation, just spending 45 minutes with him, just like two guys, shooting the shit in the barbershop. That was it.
Yeah, amazing. Question for you to go. You've been so generous with your time, Tim. If your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
I would say At Peace. From a parent perspective, I'm at peace. My kids are 23, 21, and 19, and we've had a lot of time where we're just working to get them to being the people that they are right now, and all the rest of that stuff. Like, I'm in a new place where I said this to Azzi the other day, and she's like, she loves this phase of our lives. Like, I'm no longer the parent who's like got to crack the whip and get you guys in shape and like, making sure you're doing X, Y, and Z. Like, I've given you all that stuff. So now I get to sit back, and our relationship has now evolved to, not just, I'm always going to be a parent. I'm always going to be a dad, but our relationship has evolved to like I get to be this a friend, a mentor, an advisor, someone you come to ask for advice. And I'm not telling you what you should be doing, when you do it, and how you do it. It's now I get to sit back and kind of see the fruits of that labor, and that's a peaceful place to be as a parent.
Amazing. Well, Tim, this has been an absolute pleasure. I love this chat and look forward to your podcast and more episodes to come. I'll be sure to link it in the description. And again, thank you and have a lovely Christmas.
Appreciate you, and thanks for having me. And likewise, have a lovely Christmas.